All right, so welcome everyone. This is the City Council meeting for Minnetrista, February 16th, 2021. Our first order of business, I'm going to ask that someone volunteer to say a Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see. Ann McGregor, would you like to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ann, for doing that. So next, we have introductions, and with that, I'll do a roll call at the same time. So I'm Lisa Whalen, I'm the mayor. Council members present: Ann McGregor.
Here.
Kathleen Refkin.
Here.
Pam Mortensen.
Here.
John Chumperland.
Here.
And staff present tonight is our city administrator, Mike Baroni.
I am here.
Our public works superintendent, Gary Peters.
Here.
Our chief of police, Paul Falls.
Here.
And our community development director, David Abel.
I am here.
Our director of administration, Ali Pulfus.
I'm here.
And our city clerk, Chris Lindquist.
I am here.
And then we also have our city engineers, Allison Fauski.
Mayor, she is not here tonight. Adam Gadbois will be sitting in for him.
All right. Thank you. And Adam Gadbois?
Here.
Thank you. And then sitting in for Ron Beatty this evening is Mr. Biggerstaff.
Here.
And thank you. And I think I got everyone.
Yep. So, and then Mr. Grimm is not attending tonight. He's at an event for his children. So.
Right. All right. So that concludes our roll call and introductions. Next, we move on to approval of our agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? All right. Hearing none, then is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
This is John. So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chumperland. Mr. Chumperland made that motion. Is there a second?
This is Kathleen. I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Refkin. So motion was made by Mr. Chumperland and seconded by Ms. Refkin. All those in favor will signify with aye. I vote aye. Ms. McGregor.
Aye.
Ms. Refkin.
Aye.
Mr. Chumperland.
Aye.
And Ms. Mortensen.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. So next we have our special presentations, and with us this evening, as I said before, we have Mr. Hutchinson, Hennepin County Sheriff. Welcome and thank you for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule, so it's very special that you would take time out to and do a special presentation for us. We appreciate it. I'm going to hand the floor over to you now.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Mayor. I appreciate that, and to the City Council and City staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. And of course, the most important thing, while we all have these roles, is the community members and the citizens of our great county and your great city. I want to first start off by thanking, and this is a sincere thanks to the Public Safety Director, Falls. He's a great leader. The men and women of the Minnetrista Public Safety and all the public safety partners, we thank them very much. They do a great job. And as you all know, excuse me, it's been a very challenging year. I'm extremely proud of our agency. The Hennepin County Sheriff's Office we're stretched as thin as we can be. We're helping Minneapolis, but we're also making sure our suburban partners don't get affected. So we're still as strong as we are in the suburbs as we're in the city. We're just moving people around. And again, I'm blessed to get to be their sheriff. But sometimes people think the other way around, but I always like to joke and say if I'm 10 minutes late to work, nothing really happens. If we have our deputies 10 minutes late to work, there's some loss of life or some catastrophic events that could happen. So I appreciate their service, and we love our partnership with your city and the rest of the cities we serve. But it's been a tough year with the death of Mr. Floyd, the unrest, COVID, of course. We've been on our toes from day one on the onset of COVID and the unfortunate unrest. But I'll discuss a little later. Our plans in place for the trial coming up here are as good as they can be. I'm proud to say that we work hard every single day to make sure, we have a fair trial, people get treated respectfully, and of course, so our cities and county, mostly Minneapolis and our county, don't have what we had in May and June. We assisted your city with 5 assist agencies, a few medicals, 21 traffic stops. We did some safety checks. It looks like 5 game and fish violations. And it says here we assisted in 1 fire. I'm proud to announce the new captain of Water Patrol, who was the lieutenant of Water Patrol, but now he oversees the whole patrol services. And that's, of course, Shane Magnuson. I just promoted him to captain a few weeks ago. And if you haven't met him, you will meet him. Great guy, great leader, and cares about the community. We have a thing called CISA, which is a Center for Information Sharing and Analysis. It's kind of like the stuff you see on TV where they have a big screen, they type messages, and they do intel on social media, and you name it. They're very busy. So 51 requests filled for your area, 4 jail calls, some address workups. We provide a lead with the West Metro Drug Task Force. They've done a lot of good cases in the last 6 months and gotten a lot of drugs and dangerous stuff off our streets. We did investigation on multiple pounds of marijuana and THC and edibles were recovered, which of course, marijuana isn't a big deal to some, but when you have that much, there's obviously some illegal sales that could generate some problems. So we're lucky to get those people arrested and hopefully charged. Of course, this time of year, we're all thinking ice safety, and the week we've had, I think there's probably about 5 million layers of ice on there, but we all have to pay attention that no matter if we live in the frozen tundra or not, there's some weak spots in the ice, and the last thing we want to do is respond to a call if someone fell through the ice. But of course, if they do, which we hope it doesn't, we have a great underwater recovery team. They're one of the best in the nation if anything bad were to happen, but fingers crossed it doesn't happen anymore. In the last year, we started a new division called the Community Outreach Division. We do things from ice cream trucks to trips on boats on the river with inner city kids. We do a lot of stuff with suburban and the western part of the county as well. And of course, with COVID, that will stall a little bit, but hopefully this summer we can get back out there. And of course, Mayor and the City Council, if you have any ideas, please forward them to us. We'd like to get out there and be a part of the community. Cold snap we've been working on. I was out the weekend before handing out gloves, hats, cold weather gear to the unsheltered or homeless. So we're always looking for donations. So if you know anybody with gently used or new items they want to get rid of, drop them off at the Water Patrol there at Spring Park on the lake. That would be very beneficial to us and the people who need it. I started a wellness program when I started. The program's called Try Wellness for body, mind, and spirit. We're working on better gyms. We have the state's first full-time mental health professional that works with our deputies and other staff. We have chaplains from different denominations of religion, because obviously my philosophy is if our deputies and other people who work for the sheriff's office are treated with respect and they're happy and healthy and they have their ducks in a row, they're going to treat you better when they encounter you on the lake or on the roads, etc. And so, of course, I think we're all worried. Minnetrista is far enough out where I don't foresee any problems. But of course, we plan for everything in the county. The civil unrest in Minneapolis and the upcoming trials. Obviously, my staff and I support the right to protest. And keyword is protest, peaceful protest, not rioting. Our staff will continue to ensure demonstrators have a safe environment to voice their concerns, but we're not going to take violence. What happened to me in June is not going to happen. Will not be tolerated, and we will arrest you and put you in jail if you damage property, hurt people, or take people's livelihood away. Again, what happened last year is not going to happen this year. and we have a lot of plans in place and a lot of cops and National Guards people from all over to help us. So again, protest all you want, voice your concerns all you want. That's an American right. But as soon as you step over the line of protesting to damaging stuff, it's now become riotous behavior. You'll be going to jail. We continue again working with your agencies out there, your public safety out there, and throughout the county. And our goal is to make sure now in the trial in the upcoming months and for the rest of the time I'm in office that you have my full support, that you have the greatest sheriff's office and, in my opinion, the nation at your disposal. But of course, your public safety folks out there do a phenomenal job, and they will continue doing that. But I can answer questions, concerns, whichever you like, Mayor.
Well, thank you very much, Chief Hutchinson. Council, do you have any questions for the chief? For the sheriff?
Yeah, hi, this is Ann.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Ann McGregor. I've been hearing that a lot of cities throughout the United States are losing police, as in they're quitting or retiring. Are we losing people too?
Well, I don't think in Minneapolis they've had as you see on the TV, they've had a lot of staff leave because they're unhappy. A lot of them are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome, and a lot of that was due to the 3rd precinct burning. We all saw that. A lot of those officers that were stationed out of there were traumatized, just like you would be traumatized if your city hall was burned down or if your house was burned down. So Minneapolis, it has been a lot of that. Nationally, it's not as big of a problem, but it's still a problem because the men and women who dedicated their life to protect and serve, sometimes I feel just because one person made a mistake that we're all labeled. And as you know, when we were little kids, our mother or whoever raised you told you don't treat people different because their skin color, sexual orientation, their religion, but also we shouldn't be all put in one box. If one police officer or deputy does something stupid, and we make mistakes, and those people shouldn't be police officers or deputies, and if they do something illegal, should be charged just like anybody else. But the lack of support that we're getting in major cities, people are rethinking what they want to do. They can go make more money in the private industry without as much drama and stress. So that's why we started this peer support unit, and this Tri Wellness is we got to make sure we keep them in this line of work and happy and healthy, and help them with all the problems so they can continue to serve. But as you're right, ma'am, it is a problem. We're concerned about it, but we're also concerned with the lack of applicants. We're at a 25-year low nationally of people applying to get into law enforcement, which is very, very scary. So we've been doing a lot of stuff with outreach. We're going to try to go different places to recruit people. But it is an issue, and I think people like yourselves, especially people who support law enforcement, the silent majority we always talk about. But in my opinion, the silent majority needs to stop being silenced and be the vocal majority and say, we know bad things happen. We know we can learn from our mistakes, but we need proper public safety so we can live our lives. People can go to school, go to work, and go boat on the lake. We need police, we need sheriffs, we need law enforcement to keep the order of what we all need. That answers your question. I'm sorry I rambled a bit.
No, it's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And yes, we have a wonderful, fantastic chief of police out here in Paw Falls, and we also have a great group of officers as well, and they do a fantastic job. And I get emails and calls from our residents thanking them for their service. So we're very fortunate to have them, and I think this council fully supports them as well. So thank you for that. Always a good reminder. So, but thank you for your service, and thank you for all that you do for our county and our citizens. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mayor.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? All right. So again, thank you, and we'll move on to our next agenda item. Hopefully we'll hear again from you again, County Sheriff.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Hopefully in person, yes.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have persons to be heard. Is there anybody here that is wanting to speak on an item that's not on the agenda? If so, you will have 3 minutes to address the council, and you will have to state your name and address for the record. And Mr. Baroni, have you received any emails?
Mayor and Council, I did not receive any email requests to speak at persons to be heard for this evening's meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, then we'll move on to our consent agenda items. Our consent agenda items consist of A, approve our work session meeting minutes from February 1st, 2021. B is approve our city council regular meeting minutes from February 1st, 2021. C is a resolution to approve claims, and D is a resolution to approve the electronic bidding policy. Are there any that you wish to remove? All right, if not, then do I have a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, and D?
Motion to
So
move.
moved. This is Pam.
Let's see. Okay, Pam. Okay, I think Miss McGregor got the motion and Pam seconded. Is that correct?
That's fine.
Sounds good.
All right. So a motion has been made by Miss McGregor and seconded by Miss Mortensen. All those in favor will signify with aye. Mr. Trumperlin.
Aye.
Miss Mortensen.
Aye.
Miss Refkin.
Aye.
And Miss McGregor.
Aye.
And I vote aye, Lisa Whalen. So motion passes 5-0. We have no public hearings this evening, so we'll move on to our business items. Our first business item is approve plans and specifications and authorize the advertisement for bid for the 2021 local street improvement project. I believe I'll hand that over to Mr. Gadbois.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, members of the council, in your packet this evening is an agenda item for approving the plans and specifications and authorizing the advertisement for bid for the 2021 street improvement project, City Project 02-21. Background and discussion on the improvement project. The council, I believe, is well aware of the improvements proposed as we've discussed it at a number of city council meetings as detailed in your agenda item. But in general, this is the street and utility improvements for Stonebridge Road, Stonebridge Circle, Loring Drive, Minneapolis Avenue, Hardscrabble Circle, and Hardscrabble Road North. So included in your packet are the plans and specifications in a preliminary state for approval at tonight's meeting. The fiscal impact is something I wanted to touch on at tonight's meeting, looking at the opinion of probable cost. In the agenda item is a table detailing the feasibility numbers for the opinion of probable cost, and those were presented in the feasibility report that was received at the December 7th meeting. And right next to that is the pre-bidding opinion of probable cost. And so now we've got final plans and specifications, and we've adjusted our engineer's estimate opinion of probable cost based on the final proposed improvements. And you can see there's been some slight shifts to some schedules there just based on the proposed final improvements. One thing I wanted to touch on is the Schedule D storm sewer improvements. Those are an assessable cost per the city's assessment policy, and you can see that number did go up. And so the reason behind that is during final design, looking at the roadway profiles and comparing that with information from Public Works and resident input, there were some low points and issues where storm sewer infrastructure needed to be extended essentially to pick up that drainage and not cause further issues. So more work than anticipated is included in that cost. There are some kind of, I would say, over and above storm sewer improvements that are part of the project, and I'll just talk briefly about two of them. Loring Drive, there is an outlet to Lake Minnetonka at the low point, and with this project, it is proposed to directionally drill a new outlet to the lake. The existing outlet is in very bad shape. It couldn't even be lined this year. And though we did plan for that, that is an expensive process when you look at the cost of drilling in a 16-inch pipe per foot. And so one thing the council could consider that we could discuss further when it comes to the assessments, if some of those kind of over and above storm sewer improvements that are more than your standard, repairing some structures in the roadway, costs could be borne by city costs to make sure that the assessments aren't altered much from the information presented at the public hearing for the project to the residents. And so there are some ways you can see in Schedule E and Schedule G, some of the anticipated costs are reduced for the city portion of the project. And so I think that the council could consider discussing opportunities to move the funding sources around so that the assessments don't go up proportionally to what our anticipated costs are. Ultimately, we do wait for what those bid costs come back on to see what each of these schedules would cost per the received bids. The costs in the table in the feasibility column, those included a 10% contingency. And now that we're into final design or pre-bid, there's a 5% construction contingency included in there. And then 20% is included for indirect costs. Final indirect costs for the project are not final at this point. It needs to incorporate construction services costs. And typically those are provided after the project has been awarded. So I'll pause for any questions on the fiscal impact prior to talking about the schedule.
Thank you, Adam. Council, any questions or comments? I do think, I'll make a comment, I do think we should take a look at maybe adjusting the funding portion for stormwater and try and stick close to what was originally proposed. I think people are expecting that amount that was proposed, and if we come in with somewhat higher or significantly higher amount, we may get some pushback, and I think it's kind of fair to our residents if we stick with what we had, or very close to what we had originally proposed. So we'll see where the proposals come in at and take another look at that. We don't have to make that decision tonight though, right, Adam?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions?
This is John. I just want to agree with your statement you made, Madam Mayor. I would agree when we get the final bids in and the bid has been picked, before we are assessing, we look at those numbers and possibly fine tune them.
Yeah. Adam, my one question would be regarding the stormwater runoff on Loring Drive there. Is there no other way of doing that runoff other than a directional boring directly into the lake? Can you do like some check dams or something along the edge of that ravine there? It's kind of like that walkway down to the lake. Is there any way of doing like an surface runoff with check dams?
Sure, thank you for the question, Madam Mayor. I believe when you reference that walkway down to the lake, you're referring to the access that the HOA has kind of on the east end or the cul-de-sac of Loring Drive. And
yes.
that will remain as is. So as the council's aware, we're adding curb and gutter to Loring Drive. And what that does is it delineates the stormwater runoff to a certain point, the low point of the roadways. And if you recall, based on a conversation with the resident that had the drainage concern there in the cul-de-sac at the public hearing, we've been in communication with them for a while and with Public Works. We're actually shifting that cul-de-sac so it drains to the west. So all of Loring Drive is going to the low point, kind of in the center of the street. If you're looking at a top-down view, approximately in the center where the existing pipe goes out to the lake. So we're not installing a a brand new pipe to the lake, and brand new I mean making an outlet where there wasn't one before. We're taking the existing offline and then providing a new one that's actually going to function correctly and not that isn't in a degraded state. And there is not a method to do an overland flow with check dams between these two property lines. It would be similar to the issue we're seeing over on Minneapolis Avenue, where we've got some residents concerned about that water traveling down their property line. So we certainly want to get it in a pipe down to the lake. And there's no issue foreseen with doing the drilling project. It just is expensive. The reason we have to drill it instead of open cut it is, as you council may be aware, that's a very well established neighborhood with old growth trees and plenty of vegetation along the shared property lines, in some cases landscaping right up to the shared property line. So we can do this via directionally drilling and not impact those surface features. And so it is the recommended approach. It just is it's not typical to some of these projects where in the past we're used to just repairing some catch basins in the street and maybe replacing some storm sewer pipes. So
Okay.
I think it's defendable for the council to talk about shifting some of those to city costs.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the fiscal impact? Otherwise, I'll move into schedule. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
So with the schedule here on the last sentence, it says here that we have the bid opening scheduled for March 9th. We've had some internal staff discussions regarding the overall schedule and looked tighter at the schedule. And because of the ad for bid 3-week bidding window that's required by Chapter 429 process, we are gonna need to shift that bid opening 1 week to March 16th. And so that was an error on our part in the original schedule. So it's going to shift the bids back 1 week, which we don't think is going to affect bid prices. We're still well ahead of where we were for the 2020 project, which was bid in mid-April. We just have that advertising requirement of 3 weeks. It was calculated as 2 weeks. And so I just wanted to bring that up to the council. The bid opening will have to shift to March 16th. And what that does is it's going to shift kind of the remainder of our schedule with the couple more council meetings that we need to have agenda items in regards to this project on. So there's 2 more council meetings where after the bid opening, we'll talk about this project before we kick it off and get started. So the meeting after the bid opening would be the calling the assessment hearing, accepting the bids, awarding the contract. And that was originally scheduled for March 15th. But if we shift the bid opening to March 16th, we clearly missed that meeting. March has 5 Mondays, so it actually moves that meeting to April 5th. So April 5th is the new proposed calling of the assessment hearing, accepting the bids, and awarding the contract. And then the assessment hearing itself has a 2-week window. And so that would actually shift to May 3rd. And so I just wanted to discuss that schedule shift with the council. We would certainly update this schedule and provide an update right on the city website in regards to the project. And then as we move forward with notifications about the project, which is a mailed invitation to the assessment hearing, we would certainly have the updated schedule. So my apologies for that mix-up. It needed to be a 3-week window, and that kind of results in these shifts to the schedule. So be happy to answer any questions about that shift. And again, my apologies for that.
Adam, then will we have any issues because we're at the 31 days? So the bid opening is March 16th. Then the assessment, calling for the assessment hearing and accepting the bids isn't until April you said 15th or 5th?
5th. Yep.
Okay, so we'd still be with, I mean, that's fine in terms of timing. That's not a problem. And it wouldn't necessarily delay the start of the construction, would it?
I meant to mention that too. Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, because we would have the assessment hearing on May 3rd, and we wouldn't anticipate construction starting till late May, early June. And that kind of goes to the conversation of awarding the contract. Typically, we award that the council has awarded these contracts at the same meeting that they called the assessment hearing. And so that would be April 5th.
So why wouldn't we do why wouldn't we do the assessment hearing then April, the second meeting in April? Is there some time frame that has to be met?
Yeah, so for the calling of the assessment hearing would be April 5th, and then you need 2 weeks mailed notice. And so unfortunately, we wouldn't have that mailed notice out until the day after the council meeting on the 5th.
Yeah.
And so
Okay, that's
we
fine.
wouldn't have the 2 weeks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
kind of get
All right.
The 5 Mondays in March could throw us off a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. As long as we don't get thrown off too much by the on the construction part of it, I think that was a bigger concern. So, all right, council, any other questions, comments? All right, Adam?
Yeah, so thank you. Again, apologies for that. And I'm hoping that we can have the resolution revised, which there is a resolution associated with this item, just approving the plans and specifications and authorizing that advertisement for bid. The third bullet point on the resolution does state that date of March 9th. So we would want to amend that to March 16th.
16th. Okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, council, what is your pleasure? Because if we want to move forward with this, I would need a motion to approve the plans and specifications and authorize the advertisement for the bid for the 2021 local street improvement project with the change in the resolution to make the bid opening March 16th, not March 9th. Is there a motion to that effect?
This is Kathleen. I'll
John,
motion.
so moved.
Okay, Kathleen made that motion and John seconded. So any further questions? Hearing none then, all those will signify with aye. I vote aye. Lisa Whalen. Ms. McGregor. Ann?
Can you hear me? I said
Yes.
aye.
Okay,
Sorry.
now we can hear you.
Okay.
Good.
Oh, sorry.
That's good. Kathleen Refkin
Aye.
and Pam Mortensen
Aye.
and John Chamberlain.
Aye.
All right, all the motion passes 5-0. And next we'll move on to approve professional services agreement for the 2021 pavement management update. Is this Gary or is this Adam again?
Madam Mayor, that'll be me again, and then I think we'll move to Gary.
All right.
All right, thank you. So this item is for approving a professional services agreement for a pavement management work plan. And a little bit of background discussion. The council has had discussions with city staff at work sessions regarding, the roads discussion and planning for future road improvement projects. At these meetings, it was discussed that the decisions to date up to this current project have been made based on pavement inspection information from 2017, supplemented by pavement corings that have occurred on a somewhat annual basis. It was discussed at those meetings that typically, in order to conduct a successful pavement management plan, work plan, that these inspections are completed every 3 to 5 years, and typically they coincide with the development of a 5-year CIP, which I'll touch on shortly. So there was a discussion regarding when to kind of bring forth this professional services agreement for updating the pavement management work plan. And since the projects up to 2021 had already been proposed, it was determined to wait until about now to discuss that updated work plan. So what does the pavement management work plan consist of? Basically, one of the big components, and the number one component, is taking the database that we currently have and upgrading it to a paver software. This is basically a high-tech software that takes all that data and generates degradation curves and provides recommendations to align with what city staff are seeing in the field and hearing from residents. So that's number one. Number two is gathering that data and performing the detailed inspections of the roadways and inputting that data into the new program. And it spits out a term that the council is familiar with, which is the Pavement Condition Index, PCI. And just for your reference, a brand new street is 100 and a completely deteriorated street is 0. And we use that value to help guide our discussions with staff and council on what streets to select for improvement going forward. One thing to note there is Gary's staff is very adamant about getting out and patching. And so we'll be working closely with Public Works on what streets they've completed a lot of patching on and make sure that that is reflected in the data that's gathered. So we're not saying that a street is in much better condition because it's just recently been patched. We know that it's in a poor condition. This will culminate in a pavement summary and report, and maybe some members of the council will recall in 2017 a very similar report put together with a summary of the investigation, and then more importantly a map of the community showing these streets and showing the PCI values. That's very easy to digest for the council to kind of determine and scope where they want to move forward with the pavement improvement program. And we would also be putting numbers to that improvement and ultimately providing recommendations to get onto a 5-year capital improvement plan development, so that we know far in advance what streets are programmed in, and when residents call, instead of saying, well, we're working on that, we might get to you, we can look at this 5 years in advance and have a really good idea of where our street improvement program is headed. So in terms of a timeline to develop this, we would start with that discussion here in spring of 2021, and as soon as the snow's out and we're done with kind of those expanded cracks that we see from the cold weather in the pavement, we'd go out and get the initial inspections completed, and we'd do that by the end of June. We'd focus on really deciding what streets are programmed in for 2022, if any. With the council, we'd have those discussions, and then we'd compile that report to kind of gather all the information for the 5-year look ahead or capital improvement plan based on all those findings. So there is a proposal that kind of details what I just talked about included in your packet as well, and that lays out each one of those points and the costs associated with completing those tasks. So I would be happy to answer any questions on that proposal or on this agenda item at this time.
Thank you, Adam. Council, questions?
This is John. Adam, go ahead, Pam.
John? Oh, Pam, go ahead.
Okay. In some of the projects that we've done over the last couple of years, we have found that some of the like lift stations needed repair, and that kind of determined which roads we would be doing. Is there any way to have these other repairs added into the road projects so that it kind of gives us a really good direction when we are starting to plan for the future?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Mortensen. That's a fantastic question, and I totally agree with you that discussion starts to occur after the pavement analysis is done, and as we look at what streets are in need, we can align those with Mr. Peters and his staff and their needs from a maintenance standpoint and what we know our utilities need, and then combine those into that 5-year CIP. So the goal is to have this 5-year CIP where we know the lift station in this area is on its last leg or maybe has 5 years left. And we also know based on the new pavement analysis that the roads in that area are in need of full depth reclamation or mill and overlay, and we can combine that work together. So that's been the mission objective here for the last number of years, but the intent here with this most recent inspection would be to really make that a little more robust and also be looking out 5 years instead of just the next 1 or 2 years.
That would be very helpful. And I find this whole project that we're talking about really is beneficial to decision making.
Okay. Yeah, good comment, Pam. John, did you wanted to say something as well?
Yeah, Pam touched on part of what I was going to ask, the same thought process. I was incorporating that. The other is there's this project here. There's no additional core sampling that's going to take place at this stage, right?
That is correct. So this is a visual analysis, and it's an inspection of the pavement surface, looking at pavement distresses, known pavement distresses. So the cracking, longitudinal and transverse, any breaking up or delaminating, and taking all that data and inputting into the software. So no cores at this time. And just so the council is aware, prior to any street project, we would still want to obtain pavement cores just to verify. We have as-built of what these, well, sometimes we have as-built of how these streets were constructed originally.
Sometimes
so
not.
be somewhat confident in what exists there, but we would, it would be doing a disservice to assume what exists in there based on our knowledge and not actually know, and then go to reconstruct and we don't find what we're expecting. So great question. We'd still be doing coring every so often.
And at this stage, our largest group of coring history is that from 2017?
No, we performed the largest group, not necessarily, but we have performed cores in 2018 and 2019. And that's what the council, some of the council members who've been around have seen in those project information planning sheets and associated reports of where we've gone and taken that coring in a certain geographical area. This is, of course, citywide on all the pavement to build out this database.
Thanks. I look forward to this report. The one we've been working with was getting kind of dated with all the projects we've had, so I'll look forward to this report.
Thank you. Anne, any questions?
No, it sounds like a wonderful step forward.
All right. Kathleen.
Yeah. Adam, what's the main difference on where you break out the cost and everything like that? You have the 6 sections there. What's the main difference between the pavement summary and report update versus the pavement analysis? With the work done, because with the maps and all that, like, what's the main difference?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. The number 3, or task 3, the pavement summary and report update, that's the physical update to a printed or PDF report detailing the information. It includes putting all this data into a spreadsheet that the city staff use actively to plan for these projects, and then physically updating that report and providing it. The pavement analysis is more of the meetings with city staff and kind of planning on how we can take this report and this data and start to produce and talk about the CIP. So some of these do have some overlap. So thank you for pointing that out. Ultimately, the costs, each one of these tasks rely on each other, and there is some overlap. But we did do our best just to kind of break them out into follow the schedule of how this data is going to be obtained, developed, and then presented.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so I do have a few comments here. I don't know that this needs to be decided tonight, but for Pam and John and we've been on the council now for a while, so we're kind of attuned to the process here. What we've been doing in the last couple years, we've started actually thinking about and planning for our next year's project right about this time frame, like March, April, February to April kind of time frame. If you recall, Pam and John, we started talking about doing hardscrabble, lowering, and Stonebridge back in February, March of last year. So with that, my concern here is that we're looking at updating this pavement management plan, which I agree we have to do, but we're not going to get these results, if you will, back until latter part of August probably, now, or mid-August. So here's my concern. I don't know that we can say today or next month that which roads we're going to do next year, because we won't have the management plan updated yet. So my question to the council is, do we want to possibly forego a major reconstruct or reclamation project in 2022, but use the majority of the money to do mill and overlays where needed, and also overlays that will extend the life of existing roads? The reason I say that is because those types of projects, one, we don't have to go through the 429 assessment procedures, and two, to put bids and specs together for those types of projects doesn't take the time. It's not as time intensive as a reconstruct or reclamation project. So I'm wondering if we don't want to consider using a majority of our road levy dollars for 22 doing those type of projects, so that we can then figure out which is the next road, which road or roads would be the best to do in 23. I'll just stop there and ask for comments.
This is John. I had the same concern when I did go back to see at what time of year we typically started discussing this in the work sessions, and it looked like, based on the projections in this plan, that it would be, we'd get the information back later. My only thought was, last year, as far as doing reclaims or whatever, we had 4 options. We had A, B, C, and D, and I think as what we ended up with, we took D, which was Minneapolis, and added it to B, which was a hardscrabble. And so we still had 2 major ones, which was Jennings, and I forget, it might have been Eastview and whatever. We still had 2 others that needed that type of work done. So either way, you've either got 2 that we already were presented to us last year and we elected not to go to them at the time, and certainly they haven't improved, I would doubt, in a year's time. And secondly, even if we do just overlays, mill overlays, don't we need that list also updated, or we're still working off of the list we had from last year? So I don't know. We could. My thought is we can go either way, but we're still working off last year's data.
Yeah, like I said, the mill and overlays and the overlays, those 2 things, we're not. It's a lot quicker to put those plans and specs together. If you recall, we were talking about doing some overlays even this year yet, but we were going to wait until the bids came in so we knew where we were at in terms of budget. And then based on those bids, then we'd know how much money we would have left over to do more overlays. And I talked to Allison Fauski, and she said that we could still do overlays in this year with any monies that we would have remaining in our budget. And so she said it goes a lot faster and it's a lot easier. That's why I was wondering if that's something we want to do for next year. But you're right, John, we had Jennings Cove and then Eastview. Those were two areas. But my concern there was that Jennings Cove was Jennings Bay, whatever. Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was over $1 million. I thought it was 1.2 million. Was that right? Or is that?
You know, that sounds about right, Mayor Whalen, but I don't have it in front of me. I can work my way towards it here, but.
Madam Mayor, I'm looking at our September 20th.
Okay.
At that time, the Jennings Cove area, which was C of the plans, or what they gave us was 731,000 at that time. We had looked at potentially adding Eastview to it, and that would have put it just over $1 million. But at the time, Jennings Cove area was just listed at 731,000.
Okay, maybe it's gone up a little bit now, but so let's just say roughly 800,000. That would take up almost all of the levy if we continue to levy as we have been. I think this year we're levying what, 725,000? So next year it'd probably be like 800 or 850. So it would take up pretty much that entire amount.
I have no problem going either direction. Obviously, as long as if we can prolong the life of some roads, getting them before they're past the stage where they need to be completely redone, that's just as beneficial.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Pam?
I just wanted to say that was a concern of mine also with the timeline, and I think what we did this last year, getting the bids in as early as possible, is so beneficial, and so that is a concern of mine, being not able to, get things out as quickly as we did last year. So I would entertain doing what you suggested there. I think it's a good suggestion, and see where it takes us.
Anne?
Okay, from the gist of the conversation, I take it that you already knew that plans hadn't been made for doing any other further cores or whatever to look at other roads. So I have a question for Adam. Adam, what was the thought process there when you were planning the timeline?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember McGregor. Great question. I will just state we do have coring data from a number of these, if not all of these other areas that have been mentioned in these project planning packets. And so in reality, these cores tell us what we need to know in terms of the project type. And so we already have cores for the Morning View, Westwood Drive, Eastview Avenue area. We have cores for the Jennings Cove area. So we could use that information to plan for a reclamation project for 2022 if the council decided they want, that you wanted to do that. We also can use the list of potential overlay and mill and overlay areas that was presented in that same report. Those are based off of the OCI. So the mill and overlay is typically based off of OCI, and we've obtained cores in the areas where we're predicting that reclamation projects need to take place. So to kind of summarize what I'm saying, if the council wanted to do mill and overlays in 2022, those streets would somewhat be chosen based on that OCI. But if we had the new OCIs towards the end of June of 21, we could base it off of that updated OCI information. But we would have relatively good information based on the cores to also plan for a reclamation project if the council wanted to do that.
And does that answer your question?
Well, it does to a certain extent. Now let me come back to you, Mayor Whalen, and so what you're saying is you don't think that the money is in the budget to do more of the roads, other than.
No, not necessarily. I know it's somewhat complicated. So what we looked at, so a couple things. What we looked at is for this year, we said, okay, we're going to be doing these roads. These are reclamation projects. These are the ones we're doing, Minneapolis, Hardscrabble, etc. However, we may have enough money left over depending on how those quotes come in. We may have some money left over in order to do some overlays. We don't know exactly how much. So we're hoping to get at least some overlays done. Now, what overlays do is they'll extend the life of the road anywhere from 7 to 10 more years. So what we're basically doing is for a very inexpensive amount cost, we're extending the life of roads by 7 to 10 years, maybe even longer, depending on. So I was just wondering if this, these core, not the corings, if this report comes back and shows us that there's other roads, let's just say, that need attention more so than Jennings or Eastview, whatever. Should we do those or should we do Jennings and Eastview? We can't do Jennings and Eastview both. We don't have the 1 point whatever million. We'll have somewhere between 8 and 850,000. That's about, I'm guessing, depending on if the council agrees to increase the road levy. So every year we've been increasing it by about 100 to 125,000. This year we went to 725. So if we continue in that same vein, we'd be at around 850,000. So that would be enough to do probably Jennings Cove plus maybe a small amount of something else. So you kind of follow what I'm saying? Does it make sense?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
So what I'm saying is maybe we want to use, I'm just throwing a number out there, 500,000 next year to do mill and overlays, saving the 350. And then the following year, we do Jennings Bay and we do Eastview and whatever the other ones were. We could do all of them together then. That's another approach. It's just a thought. And we don't have to make that decision tonight, but if we should, if we want to do a reclamation or a reconstruct, and Jennings was a reconstruct, not a reclamation. That's what I had understood. We would want to make that decision very, very soon. Otherwise, we're going to be behind the 8 ball again. And that's what we've been trying to avoid. We want to get these bids out February, no later than February. We want to get them out in this time frame. And if we wait any longer, now we're getting bids out in April and May, and that's not a good bidding time. So that's one of the reasons we've been trying to focus on which roads we want to do and determine those in the February, March timeframe. Does that make sense? Or
Yes.
okay. So council, maybe for tonight, if you want to go ahead and approve the proposal here, and then maybe what we should do is add this, if you all are in agreement with this, add a discussion either at our regular meeting or at our work session in March, our first meeting in March, which would be March 4th, I believe. I'll go down. Kathleen, what about you?
Well, I actually had a question.
Go ahead.
Adam, there's nothing in this pavement management thing that would stop us from, Jennings isn't going to get better. So putting it off wouldn't necessarily change that it still needs to be done, correct? I mean, we're not going to find out any new information.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember Refkin. Your first statement's absolutely true. It's not going to get any better. I think especially when we're talking about just 1 or 2 years here, the pavement condition by folks still driving on a deteriorated pavement, it's not making the underlying soils any worse, but it's certainly it can change you from a mill and overlay to a reclamation. And so that's the thing that we want to avoid. We want to get those mill and overlays done before the pavement's in such bad shape that it turns in, that it requires a reclamation where you actually pulverize all that existing pavement. The next kind of level is that reconstruction, where we're talking about having to perform some subgrade correction and maybe putting a thicker street section in. And that is very dependent on kind of the utility work that's proposed and how much of the underlying soil is disturbed and the condition of that. So I don't think that specifically focusing on Jennings Bay or the Jennings Cove area, that, you know, holding off on that area or even the East View, Morning View Terrace area a year to for the council to do these overlays and kind of get all this new data and then develop that 5-year CIP. I don't think that that's staff doesn't have a concern with that.
How bad is the Jennings Cove area? I haven't driven up there. I mean, are the residents going to be really, really mad if it gets bumped back a year? I don't know if people are calling in and complaining about it to staff.
I personally haven't received any calls from residents out there. Gary, do you have any residents out in the Jennings Cove area that are
yes,
really
we've gotten a lot of different complaints from different people out there over the last few years. So they're aware that it is in the process and that it has been for a while. But you know, another year, I don't know if it's going to make that big a difference or not. But yeah, they do have their complaints out there on that.
Okay. Thanks. I'm fine approving the resolution, and then, yeah, if we want to add this to a work session so we can discuss it more, I think that would be good versus making a decision right now about whether or not we push Jennings and then just do the mill and overlays.
Yeah, I'm not recommending that we make that decision now. I just thought we need to consider it at some point. So maybe if the rest of the council is in agreement, maybe we can bring it back at our next meeting. Because if we do reclamations and or reconstructs, we need to make that decision right away. So let me ask, Pam, are you okay bringing that back to the next meeting for discussion or a next work session?
Absolutely. I think we need to put it on the agenda for this next work session because you know, our next council meeting then would be the following 2 weeks. It keeps getting pushed back more and more and more. Right. And I think we almost need to work backwards. What is the deadline of making a decision and then working up from there? Because I know what we did for this last year worked really, really well. And I think we should try to mirror what we did last year as far as timeline of getting this planned.
Right. And the other thing is, I think the earlier you let residents know what's going on, especially if they're going to be assessed, the better off we are and the better off they are. So,
yep, I agree.
Yeah. John?
Yes, I'm amenable to speaking about it at a very soon work session. And maybe it's my thought process that is not in sync. That is, I'm thinking we've got our projects for this summer already, at least the major ones. Now, I thought typically we waited, we saw what the bids were. One always hopes the bids come in lower than projected, and then we know what money is left. And now we still could do partial mills and overlays, but not a complete reclamation, i.e. in that would typically be a much larger dollar number, and it would be something we need to start working on, but it would be projected against 2022's budget, not 2021's. So I guess when looking at the plan here, my concern was, what are we going to have enough information and know what our money availability is to do some overlays this summer, which don't have to have the long-term planning as the reclaims do.
That was my understanding from talking to Allison, that once we get these bids in, then we would have enough time to determine what we could use the remainder of our budget for, for mill and overlays and or for overlays. That was my understanding. So, all right. Anne?
Yeah, I agree with what John said. So,
Okay.
are we going to have the information for the next workshop?
We won't know what our final budget is because we won't know that until March 16th because that's when the bids are going to be opened. But I think we could have some kind of discussion as to what direction we want to go in.
Okay.
So, all right. Okay. So we'll put this on our next work session. So that would be a topic for March 4th at a work session. And then we'll move back to this. Council, what is your pleasure for the pavement management work plan? If you want to move forward with that, I would need a motion to approve the professional service agreement for the 2021 pavement management. I guess they're calling it an update.
This is John. I would so move.
All right, thank you, John. Is there a second?
Yeah, this is
This
Ann.
Kathleen.
Okay, I think Ann beat you to it, Kathleen. So Ann made that second. So all those in favor will signify with aye. I vote aye. Ann,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
and John,
Aye.
and Pam,
Aye.
and motion passes 5-0. So next, we move on to approve a 3-year HVAC maintenance contract. I believe that's Mr. Peters. Gary?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. City Minnetrista contracts for twice yearly HVAC inspection services for the furnaces and air conditioners at City Hall, the 2 public works buildings, our water treatment plant, as well as 3 well houses. They take place in spring and fall. The quotations we asked for 4 local HVAC service companies to provide spring and air conditioner and fall furnace inspection and tune-ups for a 3-year contract price for this year, 22 and 2023. With all our contracts, we do have a 30-year termination clause, 30-day termination clause if something would go wrong with any of them. 3 companies responded with quotes. The vendor recommended for the award of contract for 2021, 22, and 23 sibolth Heating and Cooling out of Chaska, Minnesota at a price of $3,845 per year of each year for the contract. They are the contractor that was awarded the bid before that. As you can see in the impact summary, all the bids were very close this year, so not a lot of wiggle room in there. So we're asking for a motion to award a 3-year contract with sibolth Heating and Cooling for the 2021, 2022, 2023 spring and fall HVAC services for City Hall, Public Works, the water treatment plants, and the 3 well houses at a total 3-year contract price of $11,535. And I will take any questions as needed.
Thank you, Gary. Just a real quick question for me, and then I'll hand it over to the council. So have you been happy with their service?
Yes, very happy.
All right, great. And they've done good work?
Yes, they have. Very Johnny on the spot.
All right, great. Thank you, Gary. Anybody else have questions? I'll start with Ann.
No questions.
And Kathleen?
No questions.
Thank you. And John?
I do have one, and it's just informational. Gary, at the south and the north treatment plants, why is the spring cost so much more significant than the fall?
There's more air conditioning units than there is heaters in that place. They're small electric unit heaters that are in the filter room, and they don't take nearly as much work to go through. Whereas in the spring, with the air conditioning units, there's 1, 2, 3. I think there's 4 units at each plant.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. All right. And Pam?
No questions.
All right, then. All right. Then is there a motion to approve the 3-year HVAC maintenance contract with sibolth Heating and Cooling in the amount of total of $11,535?
So moved. This is Pam.
Thank you, Pam. And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, a motion has been made by Ms. Mortensen and seconded by Mr. Chumperland to approve the HVA 3-year HVAC maintenance contract. All those in favor will signify with aye. Pam?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
And Kathleen?
Aye.
And Ann?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes 5-0. So we'll move on to our next business item, and that's approve a 3-year city generator maintenance contract. Gary, that's you again.
Yes, it is, Madam Mayor and members of the council. The City of Minnetrista does contract for biannual generator maintenance services for their standby units located at City Hall, the Public Works, Public Safety, and our 2 water treatment plants, as well as now 2 lift stations, along with 3 portable tow units that we have for lift stations when power is out. These service inspections take place in spring and fall. Complete inspection and tune-up of all units. The staff requested quotes from 5 generator companies for a 3-year period of this year, 2021, 2020, 2022, and 2023, again with a 30-day termination clause, with 3 companies replying back with quotes. The vendor recommended for the generator service this year for the 2021, 2022, and 2023 is Advanced Power Services Incorporated out of Hopkins, Minnesota, at a price of $7,870 for 2021, $7,900 for 2022, and $8,000 for 2023. They were awarded the last contract. They're an experienced contractor, and we've had no issues with them whatsoever. Again, you can see by the financial impact statement that the prices are very close again. So not a lot of wiggle room here either. So the motion is to award a 3-year contract with Advanced Power Systems Incorporated for a 2021, 2022, and 2023 spring and fall generator services for City Hall, Public Works, Public Safety, our 2 water treatment plants, 2 lift stations, and our 3 towable units at a 3-year total of $23,700. And I apologize, it's actually $770.
$70. Thank you.
Yes, $23,770. I'm sorry, it's a typo on my part. I'll again open up for any questions.
Thank you, Gary. Any questions, Council? Pam?
Nope.
John?
Nope.
Kathleen?
No.
Ann?
No.
And I have none too. So do I have a motion then? And the amount is $23,770 to be awarded to, let's see, what's the name? Advanced Power Systems.
This is Kathleen. I'll motion.
Thank you, Kathleen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second Pam.
Okay. Ann beat you to it again. So
Okay.
second by Ann. All
Yeah.
those in favor will signify with aye. I'll vote aye. Kathleen?
Aye.
And Ann?
Aye.
And Pam?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
And that concludes that. That's 5-0. Motion passes. So that concludes our business items, and we will now move on to administrative items, staff reports. So we'll start with Mr. Baroni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I've just got a few items to mention. Since our last meeting, we did have a police advisory meeting with Police Chief, the Mayor, and myself, and officials from St. Bonnie. It was the first time we had met in about a year because of COVID. And then we also had a Fire Commission meeting, and I can defer any information about that to either Councilmember Refkin or Mayor Whalen to describe the actions of that meeting. That meeting, as well as the police meeting, both occurred on the Tuesday, February 9th. We had a Thursday, February 11th labor negotiation session with our police officers. We made progress, but we still did not reach an agreement, and we'll be working on that moving forward. And we also have, and we'll be starting hopefully soon, some labor negotiation sessions with both our police supervisors and now our CSOs. So we'll be working on that. And then the final item I have for you tonight is that we will be starting the city administrator performance evaluation process. Just to briefly outline the process, by the end of this week from Ms. Polfus, you should be receiving a completed self-evaluation form by me, a blank performance review form, and then a copy of my job description. And like I said, that will go out by the end of the week. And that will go to all 5 members, even though only 3 of you will be actually having your comments tabulated and your scores tabulated, since this is for last calendar year and our 2 new council members were not on the council last year. So you'll have that information by the end of the week. We have a 2-week turnaround for not only people on the council, but other city staff that will also be participating in my review. And then the personnel committee meeting will meet, and our goal is to have a closed session on the council meeting that will occur on Monday, April 5th to finish up this particular item. So in a nutshell, that is the process, but there'll be more information to come. So with that, I think our city clerk has one item that she wants to briefly describe and discuss with the council. Chris?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Madam Mayor, members of the council, included in your information packet, you received a memo from Hennepin County in regards to the open book meeting. They are not, since most of the staff is working remotely, they are not going to do an in-person open book meeting. So they'll be doing virtual meetings. They're going to hold several of them for taxpayers with their property value. It was provided with their taxpayers with their property valuation notices that will be mailed in March. And it will explain to them, to the taxpayers, of when they can attend these virtual meetings. We have been assigned to Tuesday, April 27th, and Thursday, April 29th. And I'm sorry, that's not the viewing. That is when a taxpayer can actually talk with an appraiser at Hennepin County. And I believe it will be either Kevin Wynn, who is our tax assessor, or James, I can't pronounce, Atkinson.
James Atkinson, yep.
Okay, yeah, he's also with Hennepin County Appraiser's Office. So this will also be included on our city's website. And I believe Allie will also be putting it into our newsletter that goes out. So there will be plenty of notification for our taxpayers. But I think we'll also put it out on social media, on Facebook.
Okay,
thank you. That's about what I have. So if any questions?
Council, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right. And this is for evaluations for next year. So, and yeah, that'll go out, I think, some information in the newsletter as well. Thank you, Ms. Lindquist. Any other staff reports? If not, then we'll move on to council reports. I'll be quite brief. I did attend the fire district meeting with Kathleen, myself, and Mr. Baroni. I was, as I stated in the meeting, I was disappointed. And the reason I was disappointed is I thought there would be more elected officials. In fact, Kathleen and I were the only elected officials. And there was nobody from Mound or nobody from St. Bonnie, and no elected officials. In fact, no representation other than the fire chief from St. Bonnie. So I was disappointed, and I stated that. I think moving forward, we're going to try and get everybody at the table here. The chiefs, both Chief Peterson in Mound and Greg and also Chief Anderson from St. Bonnie did a great job. They did a presentation, I think, kind of to bring the new people on board and kind of update them. And so they did a great job on that, but not other than Kathleen, there wasn't anybody else new there. So moving forward, I'm hoping for more participation, put it that way. Public safety meeting, I attended that, and our next one will be in April. And we talked about a number of issues there. The other thing I just want to mention is I continue to get calls and complaints, if you will, regarding junk properties, particularly the one on Deer Creek. What I have told the people is all I can do is ask the council if we can discuss this at a future work session. I'm not saying it has to be next month, but if we can put it on the radar for another discussion, maybe in April or early May, so that I think the residents can kind of hear what the council has to say about it. Is the council okay with putting this on for discussion at a future work session? I'll just go around the horn. John?
Yes.
Okay, Pam?
Yes.
Say that again?
Yes.
Okay, Kathleen
Yes.
and Ann.
Yes.
All right. That's all I have, so it'll go on. I'm not sure when, but we'll put it on a future work session. And that's all I have, I think. So I'll pass it on to, let's start with Ann.
I don't have anything. I thought there was a Gillespie meeting, but it's not till March. And I did send them some fundraising ideas. So we'll talk about that at that next meeting.
Great, good. All right. And Kathleen?
I've got nothing to report.
Okay. Other than you were at the fire district meeting?
I was at the fire district meeting with you, and you summarized it very well. I was also very disappointed that there wasn't anyone there from Mound or St. Bonnie.
Yeah. And you did a good job. You did a great job. You asked good questions, and yeah, so I was glad you were there. All right, Pam.
There was no Mound Westonka West Commerce meeting. I'm getting late. And I did attend the personnel committee on the 10th to talk about the labor negotiating. I did contact the pig race owner for Trista Day and inform them that we are not going to be doing the races in May, and we are looking still at a possibility of September, and that decision will be made in June. And so he did lock in the date for us. He thought that was actually a really good date for him and the pigs. And so that's where we're at, and I will be writing out letters to all our sponsors, giving them an update with the pig races, and that should go out by the end of this week.
All right, thank you, Pam. And John?
We'll be attending the Pioneer Sar Creek meeting this Thursday, the 18th.
Okay, great. That concludes our updates and reports. David, I think you did. Somebody already volunteer for the Planning Commission meeting, correct? Wasn't it Ann?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so then we're set, and with that, we can be adjourned. If I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
This is Kathleen.
All right. Thank you. So Pam made that motion and Kathleen seconded that. All those in favor will signify with aye. I vote aye. Pam?
Aye.
And Kathleen?
Aye.
And Ann? Yeah, Ann?
Hi.
And John?
Aye.
So we are adjourned. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.